Good evening, everyone. It's 5:30 and we will call this meeting to order. Welcome, bienvenidos to our regular board meeting of Vancouver Public Schools on Tuesday, October 10th. Before we get started, I wanted to share a few thoughts and reminders. We want our board room to be a welcoming, safe space for all and any of our community members and guests. As this is a business meeting, we do expect those in attendance to conduct themselves in a respectful way. We would ask that you do not interrupt the meeting if there is any immediate need that you have, such as an audio concern or question. Please move to the back and let one of our staff members know. As a reminder, there is a designated space for any video recording and or media. We will now get started with our business meeting and the items on our agenda. We will now do roll call. Director Decker.
I'm here.
Director Sproul.
Here.
Director Smith.
Here.
And Director Barros.
Here.
And I am also here, and we're all in attendance and we have quorum. We will start with our superintendent report. Dr. Snow.
Thank you, Director Zavala Ortega. As we started last September's meeting with the national anthem, we'll do that again this time, and we've tried to practice this a little more since the last time, so hopefully it'll be able to be heard a little more clearly here. But if you're able and would like to rise for the national anthem, it'll be performed by Columbia River High School under the direction of Mr. David Kekes-Chartre. Thank you. That's a great way for us to feature some of our amazing musicians. And at the conclusion of our board meeting, the band from Columbia River High School will perform another song as well. So if you're not here at that point, you can watch the recording if you would like to see it. In my superintendent report tonight, the first thing is just some amazing news, and I'd love to invite Jenny Thompson and Mark Reith forward to share this amazing news with the board.
Good evening. I'm Jenny Thompson. I'm the Executive Director of the Foundation for Vancouver Public Schools. And the last time I was here was in June. And we had an exciting announcement about this new construction trades building that we're built on Hudson's Bay campus to support our young people. And I'm here to let you know that the money's been raised. Our community believes in this project so much that it took us only 5 months to raise $2.5 million to support our students. And the closing gift, an official press release will come out next week, is the Lynch Family Foundation in the amount of $1 million. So it's pretty incredible. But that also means that now the ball's rolling. Our hope is that this building that you see will open about a year from now. So Mark will tell you a little bit about where we're at with that.
Thanks, Jenny. Excuse me. Good evening, everybody. My name is Mark Reith. I'm the Director of Career and College Readiness for Vancouver Public Schools. And again, super excited about this and the opportunity. But as Jenny said, now the work starts. So I'm excited to say that our industry partners from around the county here and around the local area are behind this 100%. to the extent that we already have an architect on board and we have a civil engineering company that's working with us. And not only have they hired to do the work, but they've actually both already met with students in our current construction trades program. So the students are involved in this from the start. So we had the architect come in and talk to all the students about design aspects and what they wanted to see in this future building so that they really have a stake in it. Really engaging. It was a fantastic experience. And then McKay Esposito, which is our civil engineer company, came in and they actually did a survey of the site. Because I don't know if you've been there at this site, but there's a pretty steep slope there. So there's going to be some work and some engineering and things that go into this. But again, students are talking with the folks that are a part of this and behind this and our local employers that support this. So we're very excited. Again, amazing to me to think that $2.5 million of private funding is going to go to fund this building. So that just talks about what you all think about supporting our programs for our kids. So again, thank you. And thanks. I'm very grateful and thankful to the board of directors for their support and letting us take on this adventure. And we're excited to get the building started. And again, to note too, it's going to be a construction trades building, but we're also going to develop a maritime program too. So take advantage of our partners down on the port and on the waterway so that we can create opportunities there for students. So thank you very much.
We have another presentation tonight from Waterfront Gateway Affordable Housing had asked if they could have 5 minutes to share some news about the community. And so I will turn this over to Jonathan, who is here on behalf of the affordable housing, and I'll pull up your slides for reference.
And is there a way for me to advance the slides? I'll just say next. Okay, great. All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Snell and the Vancouver School Board of Directors. So my name is Jonathan Ledesma, and I'm with Colas Development Group. We're a small family-owned real estate development company based in Portland. And my colleague Emily is not here, regrettably. She was unable to make it, but she is with NAYA, Native American Youth Family Center. They're our nonprofit co-developer on the project. And the project I want to come here to talk to you about today is an affordable housing community located at the Vancouver Waterfront Gateway. Next, please. So the site of our future development is located at West 6th Street and Grant Street in the Vancouver Waterfront Gateway. It's also part of a larger master plan development. Next slide, please. So you can see there on the top left is the building that we're developing. It's a part of a larger development that will be developed by a different company. We'll be working with them specifically for the affordable housing site, for the transaction of that site, but that's it. And the entire master plan development was approved last night by Vancouver City Council. So we're really excited about that. And we're also excited, obviously, about the affordable community that we're working to develop. Next, please. So here's some preliminary images of the development. Looking south towards the buildings weren't there, you'd see the rail line, and then you'd see the waterfront development in the background. The building will be 6 stories for a total of about 84,000 square feet, a total of 95 affordable units. And the unit mix will range from studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms. With the 3 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms geared more towards families, there'll be outdoor playground, game room at the ground floor, and other various amenities. NAYA will be providing resident services and a yet to be determined program for those resident services. And we're really excited to be working with the community and kind of getting this project going. Next slide, please. So we're still in the early phases. One of the big hurdles we were gearing towards was the approval of the development and disposition agreement, which happened last night. So we're really excited about that. And then it'll probably take about, I would say, just under a year, 10 months maybe potentially, for the architect to complete the drawings, to get the permits and entitlements submitted. And then we're going to kick off construction. That'll probably take just over a year, potentially 13, 14 months, depending on, just how these things go nowadays. And ready to open in first quarter of 2026. We'll be leasing up and getting people in the building. So we're really, really excited about that. And I know this was short, but we're really early, but I look forward to coming back and presenting more about the project as it unfolds. So thank you all.
I think we have some students signed up for public comment a little later, and I just wanted to show some of the graphics that they put together as a part of a partnership with our foundation in recognition of Hispanic Heritage Month. And so they did some amazing work, and I wanted to highlight that for the audience and the board, and then we'll hear a little bit more from them in a bit. Moving from that to the budget update, not quite as exciting, but it's going to be a very important budget year for us. I know that we've had, if you're frequent to board meetings, then you've seen very similar slides as we worked to the adoption of the 23-24 school year budget. And we're looking ahead to 24-25 and just talking about some of the opportunities and challenges that are in this budget cycle. And so when we've presented these slides, we've tried to kind of check off things that we know and leave things kind of open still that we're working towards. And so when we think about the revenue that we have coming in for the 24-25 school year and beyond, number one, huge appreciation for our community and saying yes to the levy last year that ensures that we have local funding for another 4 years. And anytime we renew a levy, we always appreciate the opportunity to recommit to the public around where those funds go and what that looks like. And that's a part of the budget adoption process. We also are getting a pretty good, clear picture of what our enrollment looks like. We continue to graduate classes larger than we enroll. And so our class of 2023 was larger than our incoming kindergarten class. And so because of that, we have this kind of ripple effect where over the course of many years, since 2015-16, we're not keeping up. And so this year we actually had an increase in enrollment in some of our secondary grade levels, but not enough to really kind of overcompensate for those smaller kindergarten cohorts that come through. So that's something that is concerning because we want to always align our staffing models to the number of students that we have. An open checkbox here is the legislative session. We are in the second year of a biennium. Typically in the second year, we don't see large changes in funding. So it's less likely to see a dramatic increase in public school funding this session. Usually it's the first year of the biennium that we see some of that. And so that would be another year away. We have seen some additional resources from the state around special education funding. So we're very grateful for the last legislative session, and that impacted our revenue by $11.2 million. Also, at the same time, the demand for services has increased. And so we're not necessarily seeing a windfall with that, but more kind of keeping up. And then finally, our federal COVID relief dollars needed to be spent. So we can no longer rely on those to provide programming and services that we have the last several years. And so that's another unfortunate revenue that we'll have to either replace or figure out how to balance out. On the expenditure side, just call your attention to the icon on the right. In our state, they have a prototypical school model, which deploys staff based on the size of your school. And so each school, you can look in the RCW and it shows you how many principals you should have, or how many teachers, how many counselors. And so right now, the cost of a staff member, that prototypical staff salary is being funded at about 80% from the staff or from the state. And so that means that we're using local funds to support the cost of staff members. And then additionally, in our community, we felt like the prototypical school model isn't enough. And so we have funded about more than 350 staff members. And so that would be 100% of the funding is either coming from local or grant funding. And so that's important context because when you look at what's happening across the state, there's an implicit price deflator, which is really a kind of about inflation or cost of living. And so our state funded an increase to that for our staff, which is awesome, 3.9%. But because we don't fund all this, we have more staff, then we need to make up that difference. And so we're looking at about $7.5 million of increased expenditures to keep up and make sure all of our staff members receive those incremental raises. And then we also want to just make sure that we're competitive with salaries and we attract and retain the best staff that we can. We are still sustaining some of our COVID relief positions. The board talked about stair stepping away some of the services, so just not dramatically cutting all of those. And so we're using fund balance this year to retain some of those positions, and we'll not have that fund balance in the future to continue to retain those positions. And then on the special education front, again, we are seeing, from several years ago, about 12% of our student population were identifying as needing services in that area, and we're up to 15% and have been trending up over the last several years. So those are concerns on the expenditure front. So the challenge we have ahead is this current budget. We use those federal relief funds and we use fund balance to balance the budget. And so what do we do for the 24-25 budget when we know that staffing costs continue to increase, that there's been a challenging labor market out there? We want to be competitive. We are also seeing inflation impacting things like everybody in their household are seeing them impact insurance, utilities, fuel, materials. It just costs more to do things. And so we got to keep up with that. And so we're looking at probably about a 5 to 10% reduction in expenditures in order to have a balanced budget. And so normally we start our budget adoption process in January-ish, but we want to just get ahead of it and talk about it and recognize where we might leverage change to get this through and to give the board a real good runway to adopt the 24-25 budget. So we've talked with the directors kind of individually about what would success look like for a process. And so we want to make sure that there's transparency, that we're helping people understand the reason behind the challenge and knowing what to expect and anticipate as we go through the cycle. The school finance is pretty complicated, because there's state, federal, local grant funds. So trying to present the information in clear, digestible chunks is really a part of being transparent. We could just give 500-page spreadsheets and say everything's here, but that doesn't really meet the spirit of trying to bring along people and get input from people. Input is important. And when we talk about VPS community, we're using that as a broad definition. So thinking about students, staff, families, and community members as well. And then this board adopted an equity policy in February of 22 that really calls out how to help make difficult decisions and to look at that process and weigh it carefully to know the impact. And then ultimately adopt a budget. And typically that happens in August. There's a public hearing in July to get input and comments about that. But we'll be bringing this back every board meeting and talking about it with staff as well, and really trying to figure out the best path forward. So I will pause there and see if there are any questions. I don't have anything else.
Thank you, Dr. Snell. We will now be going into our special recognitions. We will be doing our Washington State Classified School Employee of the Year, Employee Excellence Awards, and Student Recognition. So tonight we'll recognize staff for the accomplishments within our district and at the state level. Executive Director of Human Resources, Jeff Fish, will read the name of each staff member and a short description of why the employee has been chosen to receive this award. If you are being recognized, please walk to the podium so we present you with your certificate or plaque. Please then pause in front of the backdrop for an individual photo. Once all the names in your award group have been read, Superintendent Jeff Snell and I will join you for a photo. If you choose to leave after this portion of the meeting, we ask that you exit quietly.
Thank you, Director Zavala Ortega. Tonight, we will recognize a member of our staff for their leadership and dedication to VPS students and their families. We're excited to celebrate Hilda Leal, the 2023 Washington State Classified School Employee of the Year. Hilda has worked for Vancouver Public Schools for more than 10 years, serving in a range of roles that support students who are multilingual and their families. Throughout her years of service, Hilda has collaborated with families to reduce barriers for student academic success and increase family involvement in student learning. In her current role, Hilda is instrumental in managing the Plaza, a twice-weekly gathering for district families to develop their English skills while their children engage in enrichment activities, and VPS en Español, a YouTube program that features important information for families in Spanish. Hilda is a fierce advocate for our families, working to make sure all feel included, respected, and empowered with support and resources. Congratulations, Hilda. Make sure you stick around, Hilda. It's not over for you. Now we'd like to go to our Employee Excellence Awards. It's time to recognize the October Employee Excellence Award recipients. The following employees were selected by a committee of their peers for commitment to the students and staff of Vancouver Public Schools. These recipients were among the many outstanding nominees who create a caring environment and positive workplace through their exceptional efforts. For information about each recipient or to submit a nomination, please visit the district's website. Our first recipient is Kelsey Andrzejewski. Kelsey is an exemplary teacher and librarian who has been part of the Minnehaha Elementary community for 17 years. She is dedicated to our students, creating engaging literacy activities and events, and her kindness, passion, and love for reading enrich our students and staff. Her outstanding family engagement events, like the Camp Out with a Good Book program, are eagerly anticipated, allowing families to create lasting memories with their students at our school. One nominator aptly describes her as the best, supporting teachers, nurturing a love for books, and orchestrating remarkable family gatherings. Thank you, Kelsey. Our next recipient is Marisol Garcia. Marisol is the FCRC coordinator at McLaughlin Middle School, and she has a profound impact on student life, fostering a sense of belonging. Her commitment to inclusivity is evident through initiatives like International Night, Latin Dance, and Pacific Islander Cultural Night. Marisol actively engages students in these programs, nurturing their confidence as valuable contributors. Her kindness and patience inspire students who eagerly assist her. As one nominator shares, Marisol enriches MAC with her presence. Thank you, Marisol. And we'd like to again recognize Hilda Leal. Hilda is the Bilingual Family and Community Partnerships Coordinator, and she makes a difference in the lives of our families and students. She creates a lasting impact in our VPS community through programs like the Plaza and VPS en Español. Her passion and commitment to families inspires others and is contagious. One nominator states, all VPS employees could learn from her what it means to provide for others. Thank you, Hilda. Our next recipient is Jackie Sachs. Jackie is a dedicated educator at the Vancouver School of Arts and Academics. She has worked at the school since 1998, bringing creativity and professional artistry to her classes in language arts, marketing, and dance. She has collaborated with renowned artists to enrich her students' experiences and secured a grant to provide free dance education to VPS elementary students. Her passion for arts education earned her the prestigious 2023 National High School Dance Festival Outstanding Service Award. Her students, past and present, proudly witness her receive this honor at the recent festival in Pittsburgh. We are privileged to have her as a teacher. Thank you, Jackie. Our next recipient is Rainther Sancher. Rainther joined the Student Welfare and Attendance Team in 2022 and immediately made an extraordinary impact in his role as a student engagement specialist. Just this year, he has been instrumental in finding opportunities to better connect our diverse communities with resources to help them thrive. A dedicated problem solver, Rainther works tirelessly to identify and remove the barriers that keep our students from learning and reaching their full potential. Families and staff alike take notice of the kindness, empathy, and warmth Rainther brings to every conversation. One nominator shares, Rainther is an example of the many unsung heroes in VPS that make students' lives better. Thank you, Rainther. Our next recipient is Sarah Williams. Sarah Williams, a SPED teacher at Truman Elementary, exudes compassion that creates a lasting impression on elementary students. Her infinite patience benefits not only students, but colleagues as well. She forges strong connections, providing solace to stressed students. Sarah's creativity assists students with specialized educational needs, simplifying complex concepts. She's skilled at setting clear goals and communicating them effectively in IEP meetings, and she efficiently utilizes resources and serves as a model for implementing new special education policies and procedures. Sarah empowers others to realize their potential, both as colleagues and students, fostering growth and collaboration. Thank you, Sarah. Sarah is unable to be with us this evening, but we look forward to awarding her with her plaque at the next board meeting. Congratulations to all of our recipients. Now it's time to recognize students for their outstanding achievements in academics and leadership. First is the College Board National Recognition Programs. The College Board National Recognition Programs award academic honors to underrepresented students. The 4 programs include the National Hispanic Recognition Program, the National African American Recognition Program, the National Indigenous Recognition Program, and the National Rural and Small Town Recognition Program. Students who take eligible administrations of the PSAT, NMSQT, PSAT 10, or AP exams are considered for awards. Students must also identify as Black, African American, Latino, Hispanic, Indigenous, or attend high school in a rural area or small town. This is not a scholarship program. However, students can include this academic honor in their college and scholarship applications. Please join me in congratulating the following students for their accomplishments. In the National Rural and Small Town Award, Cale O'Donnell of iTech and Jace Lynn, also of iTech. Next, we have the National Hispanic Recognition Award winners, and they are Caitlin Medina of iTech, Vincent Davis of iTech, Cairo Montes Escamilla of Skyview, Loki Saldiva of Skyview, and Tobias Enriquez of Skyview. Next, we have the National African American Recognition Award, and that goes to Loki Saldivar of Skyview. Now we have some awards for AP test scores. Several VPS students took advanced placement exams last year at our high schools. Topics included computer science principles, human geography, physics, English language composition, US history, and 2D art and design. Many of our students earned the highest score of a 5, an extremely well-qualified rating. We will be providing certificates to students who scored 5 points on an AP exam at the school level, since there are so many individual high achievers. 14 students earned a score of 5 on AP exams. In addition, we have AP Scholars. The AP Scholar Awards recognize high school students who have demonstrated exemplary college-level achievement on multiple AP exams. VPS has 28 students who have earned this special recognition. We will be providing certificates to students who receive these AP awards at the school level, since there are so many individual high achievers. Congratulations to them all.
Thank you and congratulations to everyone. Next is an agenda. We have our audience participation, our public comments. Our public comments is a time in our meeting where the board and administrative staff welcome comments from the public. If you would like to address the board and did not have an opportunity to sign in at the start of the meeting, please do so now. You may continue to sign in at any time during the citizen comments portion of our meeting. We ask that you approach the podium and state your name and affiliation with the district for the record. You will have 3 minutes to make your comments. When you hear a chime, please conclude your remarks. If you have materials or additional comments you would like the board to review, please hand them to the staff in the back of the boardroom. This information will be provided to the superintendent and the board. Because most matters require fact-finding and review, and the state's Open Public Meetings Act restricts deliberation on topics that have not been placed on publicly noticed agenda in advance, the board is not able to respond to any public comments made at this time. If follow-up action is necessary, the board will ask the superintendent to work with administrative staff to consider the information and respond accordingly. As a regular business meeting of the board, we expect the audience to conduct themselves professionally and courteously. Speakers are also expected to be respectful. We ask the audience to refrain from clapping, cheering, or commenting while others give public comments. Whether you are in support or against, we recognize that there are diverse beliefs and feelings across our stakeholders in our district. The one thing that we have in common is that we all want to do what is best for our children. We are here today to work towards our future. The board's asked the personnel complaints be submitted in writing. Disruptive conduct may cause the meeting to be adjourned and all audience members to be removed. The board appreciates, listens, and cares about the broad range of perspectives in our meeting. Thank you for your comments. We don't have any, virtual comments tonight. So we will start with Heather Vian.
My name is Heather Vian. I am a mother and community member of Vancouver School District area. I want to thank the board and the superintendent for the introduction of the honoring our flag and including our high school bands to play our national anthem. It is really nice to hear us honor our country and our flag and the men and women that have served for the freedoms of this country. I just want to remind this board as well. Flags are very important. Flags represent people groups, just like the American flag represents the United States of America and the Washington state flag represents those who reside within the state of Washington. So do other flags represent different people groups. In the school that my children used to attend, there are several flags that represent minority groups, but do not represent the people as a whole. And this is a form of elevation for a people group above everyone else. It creates a divide and it creates forms of hate and racism. We really need to learn from our past and stop elevating minority group or major group. It doesn't really matter. The schools really should be more of a neutral ground so that everyone is felt welcome and not just a portion of the population. According to Article 9, Section 4 in the Washington State Constitution, there should be no sectarian control or influence, and it should be prohibited. All schools maintained or supported wholly in part by the public funds shall be forever free from sectarian control and influence. Educators are told that the only way they can support this group is by posting their flags, and this simply isn't true. Flags equal territory. The term planting the flag is a claiming of ownership by those who are represented by that particular flag. There are other ways to support this group, just being there for them in their time of need, providing resources for them, lending an ear to hear them out and hear their side, and building a relationship with them one-on-one is all important and critical ways to support this group and every group that feels minority. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Next, we have Jessie Affelt.
Hello, I'm Jesse Affelt. I'm a 5th grade teacher at Ogden Elementary. We need digital resources for newcomer elementary students. These are those that cannot speak English and are new to our country. English development apps have been taken away and not replaced. As I request information from district officers, I get different answers about apps like Lexia, the ELD, English Development app for middle and high school, and whether it's coming back to elementary or not. I get different answers depending on who I ask, and the lack of clarity and dysfunction exacerbated by synergy is impacting kids' ability to learn. I was told that this was a budgetary decision about why this program was removed. And I would just love to implore or have us think about how we can align our most needy students, those that literally don't have the language to advocate for themselves, to resources that are available to them. And I implore, I thank the board and the district for adopting the equity policy recently. This is sort of a second issue. But as I've read into it and compared it to the OSPI recommendations, that it's unclear to me about where we stand in my ability as a 5th grade teacher to teach about the existence of transgender, non-binary, and other kids that don't fit the male-female dichotomy. I just really think that's an opportunity for us to strengthen our language to provide protections for educators and those students, a safe place to learn. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Next, we have Eve Durant.
Hi, I'm Eve Durand. I'm a parent in VPS, and I'm here today also as an elementary learning support teacher. I'd like to discuss some of the ways in which legal requirements are met or not met at the beginning of the school year in our elementary learning support programs. We call the beginning of the school year Scary September. It's a cute name. It's not a cute situation. It's urgent. We're asking for your immediate action to ensure legal compliance and make sure that our students' needs are being met. Every year in elementary learning support, we have new students with urgent behavioral needs that demonstrate a need for one-on-one support from learning support staff all day, every day, until an appropriate IEP or placement can be implemented. Elementary learning support teachers have to then choose between serving all students on our caseload or supporting individual students with unsafe behaviors. As a result, not all students with disabilities are receiving the services that they're legally entitled to receive. We're out of legal compliance. To address this issue, we'd like to propose that elementary learning support programs need more staffing in order to maintain legal compliance. Implementing behavior intervention plans and accommodations is another one of our job duties as elementary learning support teachers. We're legally required to prepare and implement behavior intervention plans, also called BIPs, and accommodations starting on the first day of school, while simultaneously delivering specially designed instruction to all students on our caseload. Elementary learning support programs aren't staffed to sufficiently implement all of these things. The result is that elementary learning support teachers have to choose between supporting students with behavioral needs, implementing BIPs and accommodations, and delivering specially designed instruction. To address this issue, we propose district-wide staff that can support students with significant behavioral needs. Creating schedules in elementary learning support is a really complex and detailed process that I would love to talk to you more in detail about if you're interested. To be frank, it's rare for elementary learning support students to receive all of their SDI in the month of September. We are legally required to implement all SDI for all students on the first day of school, and we can't do it. To address this issue, we'd like to propose that service minutes can be written annually as opposed to weekly in IEPs to allow for some flexibility and fluctuation.
Thank you, Eve.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have our Vancouver MedCheck Council members. So I do want to just clarify. So you each will have 3 minutes. I know you're all presenting together, right? So if you guys just kind of want to each go through, right? So you guys are just state your name when you're up there and what grade you're in. Thank you. And you don't have to use all 3 minutes, just so you know, if you have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Sorry. Buenas tardes, me llamo Elizabeth Aguilar. Formo parte del grupo de Mecha en Fort Vancouver High School y nuestra misión es darle una voz a nuestra comunidad. By a show of hands, how many of you here understood what I just said? How many of you felt a little confused? That is a feeling of many of our peers. That is a feeling that many of our peers feel daily in their classes. So let me translate. Hello and good afternoon. My name is Elizabeth Aguilar Guerrero, and I form part of Fort Vancouver's MedCheck Council, and our mission is to give voice to our community. We recently had the opportunity to take over the Fort Vancouver High School Foundation page, but our mission is much greater than a couple posts. The issue we are highlighting today is the lack of resources we have for students who don't speak English. However, we do not only bring to you a problem, but a solution.
Hello, everyone. My name is Laura Ramirez. I'm also part of Fort Vancouver's MECHA. So with our solution, a year ago, I came to Fort Vancouver High School as a junior, and I was really scared. I was really nervous. I didn't know anyone. And I started seeing this pattern in my classes. There were students being called on and they were being talked to, but they had no idea what was going on. And so I got talking to an advisor of mine, and we together came up with something called Unidos. Unidos is a peer mentor program where students would help other students in class, helping with those translating services. And not only does it kind of help them out, but it builds a community. And so fast forward to this year, we've learned a lot. We saw a lot of barriers, and we found little ways to overcome them. And so we're here kind of asking for your support, because we're ready to make this a bigger conversation, because it's not just our high school, it's kind of all over the district. So yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Miranda. I am also part of Fort Vancouver High School MECHA. And while MECHA is focused on Hispanic issues and progression, Fort is extremely diverse in other cultures, and it's unfair to those who do not understand the language being spoken around them. Together, we ask for your support to provide more resources for these students. We hope to be the voice that they do not have. We can start by bringing back Unidos, and we invite you to get a better perspective into our school's culture by attending the cultural assembly that we are planning at our school on October 26th. Where you can listen to the stories of some of our students up front. Muchas gracias por su tiempo.
Thank you. Bethany and
Good evening. My name is Bethany Rivard, and I am a teacher at Fort Vancouver High School and co-advisor along with my wonderful Ashley Peroni, who is also an educator at Fort Vancouver High School. And first of all, I know they're not here right now, but I really wanted to give a huge congratulations to Rainther and Marisol, Rainther Sancher and Marisol Garcia, because those are two Fort students. So seeing them up here, I was like, jumping out of my skin out of excitement, and seeing our students speak tonight too, it just makes me really proud. So I just wanted to reiterate that these MECHA students and our students in general in our classrooms, sometimes they're able to see the needs of their peers and fellow students. And I'm just really underlining that these students are here to take action, which is one of the pillars of Fort Vancouver High School Center for International Study, and in my opinion, one of the most important pillars. And our ELL department has sustained some cuts to the program. So it's imperative that we get creative and listen to these young voices in order to have those students in all of our classes receive the supports that they need. And also, as they mentioned, to build community and to build social supports. As teachers, this is on our radar. We know that we have gaps and we want to fill those gaps, but it's just going to take all of us to lift those students up and to see what we need and what they need and to meet those needs. So I just wanted to get up for just a tiny bit and emphasize the work that our students are putting into the solutions. And Ms. Peroni and I are both looking forward to productive conversations and actions to support those solutions. And I thank the board and Dr. Snell for your time and consideration.
thank you, Bethany. Ashley, would you still like to speak? No, okay. Thank you. That concludes our public comment time. We appreciate everyone's time. Thanks to all of you who have shared public comments. As I mentioned at the start of our meeting, the board cannot respond directly to any public comments or questions because Washington State's Open Public Meetings Law requires the district to provide advance notice of topics that will be discussed. Although we cannot respond to your individual comments, it is important that we state that the board's unequivocal support for each and every one of our students. All of our students have value and deserve to be respected for who they are. We welcome, value, promote diversity among students, employees, and our community. Again, thank you for taking the time to share your thoughts with the board. We are now going to move into our action items. The first on our list is approval of minutes for our September 12th, 19th, and 26th meetings. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? We'll move to a vote. Director Decker?
Approve.
Director Sproul?
Approve.
Director Barros?
Approve.
Director Smith?
Approve.
And I also vote to approve, so the motion passes. We have items on our consent agenda that is a slate of items that is set for approval under our instructional and administrative support. And we also have items under our fiscal support services. Do I have a motion?
I move that we vote.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussions, comments, or questions? No. Seeing that there's no discussion, we are going to put it to a vote. Director Decker?
Approve.
Director Sproul?
Approve.
Director Barros?
Approve.
Director Smith?
Approve.
And I also vote to approve, so the motion passes. So under our regular business, we have a few second readings of policies. Dr. Snell, do you mind?
Yeah, so we do have a number of them this evening, and legal counsel Taylor Richmond will do an overview of each of the items for you. These, just as a point of order, were in the committee of the whole. They were first reading as well, so the board has had an opportunity to review these and ask questions. And so what Taylor brings forward to you today is as a result of those questions and input. So Taylor, would you mind walking through those?
Sure, thank you, Dr. Snell. The first policy up for second read and adoption by the board is policy 1610, conflicts of interest. This policy is revised to align with recent state legislation that increases the monthly contract value for which a municipal officer can have a beneficial interest without creating a conflict of interest. Are there any questions?
Yes,
or would you
if
like
you
me to
want
move
to
forward?
do each of them, yeah.
You'd like me to read
Next
through all
one,
five?
yeah.
Okay. I will do that. There are four more. The next one is policy 4000, communication program. This policy is revised to include a new state requirement that school district websites include a prominent link to certain public health information on the district's homepage, on the homepage of each of our schools, and on the district's social media. The policy is also being renamed to be called Public Information Program and renumbered to Policy 4001. The third is Policy 6215, Voucher Certification and Approval. The revisions to this policy are to incorporate existing statutory language regarding internal auditing processes and expenditures. And this policy is also being renamed to Expense Claim Certification and Approval for the purpose of reflecting current terminology. Fourth is policy 6217, electronic funds transfer. This is a new policy that would authorize the district to use electronic payment methods, including electronic funds transfers. And finally, policy 6220, bid or proposal requirements. This policy is revised to specify that the school district must enter into an interlocal agreement before making purchases that utilize the special terms of the Interlocal Cooperation Act. The policy is also revised to clarify information about procurement using federal funds. Those are the five policies.
Thank you, Taylor. So do I have a motion to adopt revised policy 1610?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion, comments, or questions? No. Seeing that there's no discussion, we are going to put it to a vote. Director Decker?
Approve.
Director Sproul?
Approve.
Director Barros?
Approve.
Director Smith?
Approve.
And I also approve, so the policy passes. Do I have a motion to adopt revised policy 4000?
I move.
Do I have a second? Any discussion, comments, or questions? Seeing that there's no discussion, we'll put it to a vote. Director Smith?
Approve.
Director Barros?
Approve.
Director Sproul?
Approve.
Director Decker?
Approve.
And I also approve, so the policy passes. Do I have a motion to adopt revised policy 6215?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion, comments, or questions? None. So there's no discussion. We're going to put it to a vote. Director Smith.
Approve.
Director Barros.
Approve.
Director Sproul.
Approve.
And Director Decker.
Approve.
And I also approve, so the policy passes. Do I have a motion to adopt revised policy 6217?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions, comments? No? Okay. So seeing that there's no discussion, we're going to put it to a vote. Director Decker.
Approve.
Director Sproul.
Approve.
Director Barros.
Approve.
Director Smith.
Approve.
And I also approve, so the policy passes. And our final, do I have a motion to adopt our revised policy 6220?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion, comments, or questions?
I'll just say that I appreciate the fact that all of these were basically self-explanatory, that they were required for us to make these, which is why we have no questions and we've discussed them.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We're going to put it to a vote. Director Decker.
Approve.
Director Sproul.
Approve.
Director Barros.
Approve.
Director Smith.
Approve.
And I also approve, so the policy passes. Now for our big moment. Anyone else excited as we are?
We should have put this before public comment, and then we'd have had a full house here.
Yeah,
everybody will get a chance to maybe watch online, but this is the culmination of 15, 16 months of work by our community, by our staff, to bring forward to you for your consideration a strategic plan. I want to highlight just a few things that the staff is recommending for your consideration. The strategic plan at this level has some key components. It has a vision of a graduate that we'll talk a little bit more about, has core values as identified by our community, and it has some student-centered priorities, and within each of those priorities, aspirational and supporting goals. If adopted tonight, then some potential next steps are for us to establish some baseline data sets in each of those areas to drive action steps and progress monitoring goals. Actually, we started kind of progress monitoring already in anticipation, just because the school year has started and it's not like we shouldn't work to support students. And so that process will continue. We will begin to communicate the plan. So we have a draft written report. We have the slides for your consideration tonight. So those will serve as anchors. And then we'll look at through our website, through our other messaging opportunities, through graphics, through our dashboard, through video, to tell the story of how we got here and what's important to this community and how we as a district are accountable to that. And then finally, one of the things that the board asked us to consider through this process, and I like the order that you guys did with looking at our mission statement. So thinking about the values, thinking about the goals, the priorities we have, and now reflecting back to our mission statement, which has served us well for a long time, and understanding, is that the right mission statement moving forward? And so we have some work, we've been doing work with that, from the feedback that we've received, it seems like we should make some revisions. So we'll be looking at that process as well. I want to acknowledge Bill Owen and Janelle Ephraim. They were the heart and soul behind the staff effort. And so they co-facilitated the steering committee advisory, which represented all the other advisories. They're going to talk a little about the process tonight and kind of the story. And then I will take over when we get to the vision of a grad. And as they make their way to the microphone, both of them love to be at the microphone, you can tell. I want to acknowledge our Point North colleagues as well, who are in the audience, Katie and Lisa, who are representing a team that supported us in the effort. And then we had a lot of folks that supported the work throughout. But I want to call attention to Tracy Bernal, who is a part of the staff advisory and has been, if you haven't noticed, a consistent present at our board meetings. I think when I first approached her about the staff advisory, she'd said something to the effect of she wasn't necessarily sure, but when it happened, she was like, yeah, I am sure. And we are so glad that people like Tracy say yes to these opportunities, because what we're presenting to you is a reflection of their expertise and wisdom and experience. And that is so much better when we can bring people together around that. So I will drive the slides. Bill and Janelle, if you wouldn't mind telling the story.
I guess I am first. Good evening, Dr. Snell and board. Thank you for this opportunity. It is a special night, and we did have an opportunity prior to the board meeting start to connect with those that were on our strategic planning advisory committee and just kind of celebrate. And so the slide that you're looking at here is a comprehensive strategic plan timeline. And so that starts with the launch of our initial thought exchange in June of 2022, which was quite a ways ago when you think about it, and then ends with our October 2023 board meeting tonight for final consideration and adoption. Some high-level highlights. Fall of 2022 is really when we started our community engagement process. We saw over 6,500 connections. I think that number ended up being closer to 7,000. Janelle Ephraim, my partner in co-facilitation, will go over kind of the makeup of what those connections looked like and who we heard from, who we didn't hear from, and who we went back out to solicit feedback from to make sure that we heard from everyone so that we were able to create this 5-year plan together. Spring of 2023, that's when we started to sort through the feedback from all of the engagements, utilizing our strategic planning advisory committee to really start to put together what that vision of a graduate looked like, what those priority goal areas were. A lot of the work happened in this room at about this time. And so kind of fitting that we're here to take us to the finish line. Summer of 2023, that data started and those goals started to come together to create the measurements of success. A lot of that information the board saw along the way was able to give us feedback that we would take back to the group. We have some slides later on in the presentation that is a visual for that communication loop. And that takes us to fall of 2023, where we had a few final advisory committee meetings, the final plan development, taking us to tonight, 10/10 board adoption. So with that, I'm going to turn over the next few slides to Janelle.
Well, good evening. Good to see so many people present here this evening. I do want to talk a little bit about the engagement. We really had 3 major goals when we went to engage our community. It was to hear the community and lift more voices, specifically paying close attention to our equity priority communities, maybe some communities that we had not heard from as much as we would have liked historically. Our second goal was to empower people into action. And really this was about informing our key community members about what it means to be excellent in education and really let them know that they have a voice and we want them to be a part of defining that. Our third goal was to nurture trust and long-lasting relationships. And this was really about cultivating two-way relationships, sustainable relationships, creating engagement opportunities where our community would be able to access the engagement and really look for just long-term opportunities that we could use after this plan is adopted. Right. And so really what our engagement looked like, as of October of this year, we made over 7,000 connections. A third of those connections came really from our thought exchange and community surveys. Another 2/3 was really from facilitated meetings, that happened in a number of different places. Those are listed there. You can see we had community stakeholder presentations, advisory committees. Dr. Snell spoke about that a little bit this evening. Community listening sessions, student summit, all staff connects, thought leadership event. I'm going to talk a little bit about that here in the next few slides, and school facilitated sessions. So this was a graphic of our thoughts of the engagement and the rich discussion that came from our thought leadership event. This event included community members, that included our students, parents, community leaders, business leaders. We had approximately 100 folks in the room engaging about 4 questions in particular. What have we done well as a district? What are the things that we need to improve? What should we focus on in the future? And what does it really look like to prepare students for the future? Okay, and so this visual basically just gives us the examples, and it highlights the things that our community shared at that event. Okay. And what you're looking at here is really the demographics of our district and the demographics of the folks that we were able to engage. You'll see here that approximately 47% of our community are students who attend VPS are students of color, and approximately 53% are white students. But what I want to actually highlight is with our community surveys, you'll notice that, and that's the second bar that you're looking at here. With our community surveys, we found that that appeared to engage our white community members more so than our communities of color, but it was the facilitated meetings where we found that most of our communities of color were able to engage at higher levels. The fourth, thank you. The fourth bar there is an example of who engaged once we shared the feedback back out to you all to say, here were the themes that we were seeing. And so it gave us an opportunity to hear again from folks. Right. And I believe that, are you next?
Thanks. It's a very natural progression here. So slide that you see here shows some pictures of the work that went on actually in this room with some of our community members, some of our employees, principals, nutrition services, legal counsel. And so our strategic planning involvement consisted of representatives on this steering committee from our equity advisory community, from our community advisory group, from our family, staff, advisory groups. Additionally, there were representatives from cabinet, principals, and most important, we had students. So some of our leads from our student advisory group, and not surprising, many of them were recognized in this room last year for similar to what happened earlier today. And so our strategic planning advisory committee members are listed there. Again, we're grateful for the service. It was quite a commitment because you have to remember they were not only committed to being on this steering committee, but they were representing another advisory committee that they were also serving time on. So 2 or 3 nights a month minimum they were probably putting in for this important work. And so we appreciate that. This graphic the board has seen before. It shows that relationship between the Strategic Planning Advisory Committee, how information would flow from the student, community, family, staff advisory groups into the steering committee. It would also flow back and forth between the Equity Advisory Committee as well as cabinet and leadership. Very often we would update Dr. Snell and the board to get feedback that we would take back to the Strategic Planning Advisory Committee. And that was the flow and the process as we went through from initial survey to goals, strategic measures to the plan that is in front of the board tonight.
All right, so after analyzing all of the engagement data, the themes that rose to the top that we heard from our community, you all, were around safety, belonging, equity, community, integrity, and a love of learning. And so what you'll see here in the next few slides when as Dr. Snell shares is that you'll see these themes highlighted. And this is the plan that that you all told us that you wanted for VPS. Dr. Snell?
Thank you. So thank you for telling the story of how we got here, and appreciate that, because the how we got here is just as important as the here. And I think what we discovered throughout this process is that there wasn't anything that like shocked you in terms of what the community wants for their children. It was just the way that it was told and who we were listening to about it. And so when you see, first of all, the vision of a graduate, and you look at these attributes, we want students who are academically prepared. We want them to be culturally competent, because that's the world that they're going to be working in. We want them to be critical thinkers. We want them to be effective communicators. Resiliency is something that's new, right? Like to just think about what people have experienced over the last several years. And there's a recognition in the community that resiliency is powerful. It's something that if we build that in our children, it's likely that they're going to find success as they move forward. We're also recognizing that learning now isn't enough. You got to continue to learn, right? And so there was a focus maybe in strategic plans of the past to look at maybe as an old math teacher, a specific learning standard related to algebra or something, right? And that's important, but probably not as important as the skills of learning that and being able to apply that in other contexts. And that was significant in the feedback that we got. And then finally, I think there's a larger recognition and a searching for purpose. And the way you find purpose is in community. And so whatever that looks like, we want our kids to feel like they're engaged and connected and have purpose when they leave us. And so thinking about that vision of a graduate is the what and the how, right? Really morphed into 3 different priorities. At first we called these cornerstones, and then we didn't, through some feedback, it was like, I don't know if cornerstone's the right thing, right? It's a priority. And these priorities aren't necessarily set in stone, maybe, in terms of like they need to evolve over time probably as well. And what we define student-centered experience to be in 2023, I actually hope looks a little different in 2026, right? That we continue to learn and grow with this. And so the plan looks at it, though, from 3 lenses: the experiences that we create for our students and our staff and our families and community, the staff themselves, who we hire, how we support them, how we help them grow, how we help them work together, and then finally the community around us, right? And how do we share this opportunity that we have, that public schools are being asked to do quite a bit these days? How do we share that with the community? How do we invite other people in to be a part of that process? So from these aspirational goals, we started to think about what would be the supporting goals beneath them. And so when we think about the learning experiences that we design for our students, we came up with 2 different experience goals. One is to develop, sustain a culture of belonging, safety, and positive student-staff relationships. And the second is to prepare each student for the opportunities and demands of the next steps on their vision of a VPS graduate journey. And within each of those, there are some supporting goals as well. All in told, we have 8 goals and then a number of supporting goals beneath those. Under the student-centered staff, again, an aspirational statement about assisting students in their journeys and thinking about the diverse and skilled workforce that can reflect their experiences to the students and listen to our students about their experiences and develop that culture of belonging that we've heard consistently in these board meetings over the last several years. Also, I think it's important to note that, and this board was really clear about this, that we need to start with the assets of each student as opposed to the deficits. Right. And often we're guilty in service organizations of looking at how to help. And we start with maybe a problem as opposed to starting with the unique gifts that each student, each human uniquely has. And how do we build upon those? So I think that was a great addition. We have 3 supporting goals in here. One is related to professional learning. The other is around systems that retain and support and recruit staff to our district. And the third is to focus on the PLC model, right? And work together collaboratively in professional learning communities to understand where our students are at and how do we help them grow. And then the final area is under student-centered community. It's thinking about that trust component. It's so precious. And how do we nurture that between families and between other community leaders? Because we know if we do a good job of nurturing that, then our students are going to have more opportunities. And so we want to partner with people, work side by side to determine and deliver the access and benefit for each of our students. And so we have 3 supporting goals in this area as well. One is just about increasing those opportunities and connections. A second one is about collaboration and really some special attention to underserved and marginalized student populations. We heard some amazing examples of students saying that today. Pay attention, help us help others. And then the final one is to just think about the resources that we have. How do we leverage those resources? Resources are always scarce, right? There's always a need beyond those. So the real challenge is, as a leadership team, how do we prioritize and leverage those resources for the greatest benefit in our community? Finally, I think it's important that you're adopting tonight something that can feel like a pretty high level, and it should be aspirational. And I remember Director Sproul saying that she wanted a plan that was almost not unachievable, but maybe beyond our reach a little bit to drive us to lean into kind of what might be instead of what might not. And when you're in that aspirational world, we should live there, but we also have to deliver. Right, we have to show results from this progress or this plan and the progress monitoring from that. So I just want to walk you through a little bit that, we have these priorities, we have these aspirational goals, but then they start to lead into the supporting goals and then specific work plans, which you've heard in the last study session, 2 of those work plans, and the action steps we're going to take to move forward in this direction and the measures of success. And so when I think about the vision of a graduate and those wonderful attributes that we want, like how do you measure contribution to community? How do you measure resilience, right? And we're better at that maybe than we were 10, 15 years ago, but it's not one approach. And I'm going to do an interview with the Columbian later this week. And a lot of our focus tends to be on a state assessment as a single assessment of our kids, right? And our kids are so much more than whenever they take their test in May on a given day and whatever's going on in their lives, right? So those state assessments are important, right? Those should be a measure of success. We should look at that. We should monitor that, but we should also look at other things like graduation rates. We should look at what happens after school. We should look at their growth. And that's something else that this board has talked a lot about, is a recognition that our kids come to us with a lot of different needs, but there is an accountability that we should be doing at least a year's worth of growth for each of those kids in each of their grades, right? And aspiring to more of that. So what we need to do next is to establish where are we at with these and how do we set goals that drive our organization forward on behalf of the students we serve. And then another example of this would be the student-centered experience. And I'm previewing this because both Janelle and Bill will be back with you in 2 weeks at the study session to give you an update on these 2 goal areas. And when we think about the experience our students have, we also have lots of ways of measuring that and assessing that. And that might be some quantitative data related to surveys. And we have some of that with our panorama data that you're used to seeing. But it could also be some qualitative data that really reflects the story that our students are telling us, that our families are telling us. And so how do we leverage just the individual conversation? How do we leverage technology to allow us to talk to more people in this context and process that data? But really trying to set real rigorous goals related to this and to come back through our study sessions and through our board meetings to communicate with the public the progress that we're making. Before I turn it back over to you for questions and hopeful consideration and vote, also some of you as board directors had a chance to do progress monitoring this week. And so I'd invite you to share about that experience as you discuss this plan and potentially adopt it. So with that, Director Zavala Ortega, I will turn it back to you.
So do I have a motion to adopt our strategic plan?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Now, do we have any discussion, comments, or questions? Okay. Tracy, would you like to go first?
I shared this earlier. We had a reception to kind of celebrate the completion of this process. And it's interesting to look back. I was recalling when we started this, and our friends from Point North met with each of us and talked about kind of what we wanted from this process. And we really, I think all individually talked about the importance of community feedback and hearing from, different voices and making sure we were hearing voices that maybe hadn't been heard from before. And I just see this process, and it's just so much, I think, what we hoped it would be. But also seeing it go from, kind of this hope that we get this feedback and hearing the feedback and this kind of big picture vision and these aspirational goals, to seeing it come to fruition. And like in our last study session, really digging into what does it mean to have a student-centered staff, and what do these goals look like, and what are we actually going to do? Just got me really excited. And then this week, being able to go into our schools, Director Decker and I went to 2 schools together with, it's like, where'd she go? Janelle, with Janelle. And just seeing it put into action in terms of the implementation of just classroom approaches to make sure that there are student agreements and expectations. It felt so good to see the vision playing out in the classroom and teachers using these strategies. It's just exciting. And I am so excited to kind of have this vision that we're going to springboard off of.
And I'm just going to add on to that, as Director Vera said, that we got an opportunity to go into 2 elementary schools yesterday. And it was along the lines of the safe and schools of safety and belonging, and just to watch the detailed plan that aligned with the strategic plan of how we were going to provide that. And not just to see the plan at work, but to see the total community buy-in to what we were planning on doing. It was not just us that wanted it, not just the staff that wanted it, but it was everybody that was going to be affected by this goal was part of the decision-making process. And what I'm most excited about, besides this plan, is the relationships that have been built through the process of this plan, and that we wanted sustainable research relationships, as Director Ephraim said, and we have them. And now the next decision-making process for whatever we're going to do, we have those community members and staff members and students that know we want to listen. And sometimes we have, according to Dr. Snell earlier today, we have too many. We can never have too many, but too many that can fit into a room. So it's very exciting to go to the point where the community understands we want to hear them.
So I also kind of did some thinking back to the beginning of this process, and I was actually going through my notes of when we interviewed Point North, way back to the beginning. And just the idea that we didn't want a product that was going to sit on a shelf. We didn't want this beautiful published document that was going to sit on a bookshelf somewhere, but we wanted really more of a roadmap that was going to walk along with us as we did the work. And I think that's Dr. Snell, when you were saying that, these goals are going to evolve because our students' needs are going to evolve with that. And it does feel very authentic as a living document that will help guide us. So I appreciate just the authenticity of the process, but also just the organic nature that how everything came together. I think I did have a lot of focus on building some aspirational goals. But on the flip side of it, on the other side of that diagram you showed was just how those work plans come together. And that's the work I'm most excited about seeing right now. Which brings me to my school visits yesterday, which was at Anderson and Marshall. And it was really impactful for me looking at a new program, CHAMPS, that's being rolled out into our elementary schools to help classroom management. But so many of at Anderson, a whole team came together, counselors, behavioral specialists, and associate principals, building admins, district admins, and hearing them talk about systems to support student learning, professional learning for staff, focused organizational changes that they were making to just keep everyone focused on their own area of expertise. And it just really reflected a lot of the things that we had flushed through in the strategic planning process. And it was nice to see then in the classrooms how that was playing out and how students were benefiting. So I appreciated that opportunity, but thank you to everyone who was involved. Bill and Janelle and Point North, thank you.
I feel like I'm going to be a little redundant, but I just want to acknowledge all of the efforts and work that went into this, because it was a huge undertaking and it involved so many people. And I know that everyone on the board is just incredibly appreciative of all of the efforts that were put into it. It was a very long process, but a very thoughtful and intentional one. And the product that has resulted from all of that work is honestly better than I ever could have hoped for. I'm just so satisfied and pleased with the end product. And one thing I just wanted to, one of the reasons why I'm just really excited about coming to this point, it's not the end, it's the beginning of the next phase of work, but we had a strategic plan. Some people probably have forgotten that we had one because it kind of went away thanks to COVID, like so many other things. And so all of our focus had to shift because we were in survival mode for so long. One of the things that I'm really looking forward to is the fact that having a strategic plan not just focuses our work, but holds us accountable to the community. So I'm really, really excited and optimistic for the work going forward in the next year or 2 or 3 or 5. I'm super excited.
So I just want to say that I'm very grateful for our board. Before I came on, you all dealt with the pandemic, hiring a new superintendent. And so I feel like this is a really big milestone. And so I'm just really proud. And so this has been work that has started from when you have all started here. So I just wanted to acknowledge that this is a lot of work. I came on after the fact in a sense. And so I'm just really proud of us and Dr. Snell, and also just really proud of our district. Today we heard from students. I was very emotional. And I think that in itself, the fact that students feel comfortable enough to bring their voice to our board meeting and share with us what they want, right? I think shows how the strategic plan and all of the stuff that we've been doing, because we want to hear their voices. I think that to me just shows what the beginning stages of all of this is. And so I'm just very grateful for everyone, and I appreciate everyone's time and dedication. So, ready? We are going to put it to a vote. Director Decker?
Yes.
Director Sproul?
Yes.
Director Barros?
Approve.
Director Smith?
Approve.
And I also approve. So our strategic plan passes. Thank everyone for sticking through this. We also have our board of directors report, and I know some of us already reported some of what we have, but I would love for our directors to share any site visits, any meetings or conferences that they've attended in this past month or so.
Yes, well, I earlier this month was our voting delegate for our WASDA General Assembly. WASDA is our state school director association. And so each district has a voting delegate that gets to vote on different business items that come forward. And so a lot of the items were kind of amendments or revisions to just different like platforms or things that we want to kind of advocate for, advocating to our state legislature about things. And kind of stances that we have. Kind of one of the biggest things that happened at the General Assembly was a change to our bylaws for WASDA. WASDA previously had as part of their bylaws a weighted vote, which basically bigger districts that represent more students received more votes for certain topics when a weighted vote was called. And so an amendment to the bylaws was proposed to eliminate that, and that bylaw change did pass. So the weighted vote is no longer kind of a part of our bylaws. And so now basically every school district has one vote, which you know, there are good things about that. There are also kind of some, you know, there's pros and cons of that, depending on kind of where you fall in terms of every district has representation, but then our students that represent large populations don't have as much, you know, the representation goes down or it's disproportionate. So so anyway, that's kind of one of the big things that happened at the WASDA General Assembly. So thank you guys for allowing me to be the voting delegate for that. Thanks for doing that.
I also just want to share that I got to visit McLaughlin Middle School, and it was also with Champs being how it's being implemented, and it was just really, again, awesome to see. And it's a different feeling. I don't know, walking into the building feels different, feels calmer, feels like students also know that there's a process, right? And even our staff. So, and I also just want to acknowledge that it is Hispanic Heritage Month. So happy Hispanic Heritage Month. I was really proud of our Metro students coming in today. There is a community event for Dia de los Muertos at Esther Short Park for October 21st, if you'd like to go, from 2 to 8, I think it is. But yeah, thank you. That concludes our regular board meeting at 7:05. We are now going into recess into executive session. The subject is personnel discuss the performance of a public employee. No action to follow. When we return, we will just be adjourning the meeting and we won't have any action items. We anticipate this will take 30 minutes. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Good evening. It is now 7:44. Our executive session is over. No action to follow. Thank you.